Hello everyone, you're watching another episode of Winston Walks. We are here in Toronto. We're at College and Borden Street, which is just east of Bathurst. We're going to walk that way, and we're also going to talk about, as I've been kind of adding recently, I know people have been kind of watching it, so maybe I thought I'd add it in, but also we're talking about the recent inflation rate in Canada actually going up. So the recent report, CPI in Canada, showed that inflation has actually jumped to 2% from the previous 1.6, and the expectation was it was going to go up to 1.9. This is the new restaurants here, by the way. Good old classic bookstores. Hard media is a good thing to have. And this is a food bank as well, which unfortunately food banks are a big need in Canada now. But which comes with the theme of the 2% inflation. The core measures, which strip out, volatile things like food and energy, have actually been going up even stronger. So, and quite frankly as well, the way they measure inflation, it's not necessarily static. So, the components within the basket that they measure, they actually change. Right, and that's the hard part about measuring inflation in different countries and different systems. That really, in the truest sense, like as people on the street who are actually paying for items, you're not going to get that same standard, right? One day I think I'm going to probably dig deeper into one of these episodes on how CPI is calculated, but yeah, it was it's funny because it quote unquote surprised the street, okay, analysts, etc. And they're essentially but it's funny when we go grocery shopping, and I think a lot of people on here who are from Canada, I mean, if you're not from Canada, you probably notice as well, but I can say that in Canada, the food prices are still continue to accelerate, at a much higher rate than even what they stated at. My wonderful partner, she was complaining yesterday. We were grocery shopping, and there's $2 for potatoes, right? So I mean, when I was basically coming up in the system, and obviously in finance you don't make the big money right away, but I had to actually, especially commission-only jobs, which is what I had in a previous life. I think I mentioned that I was an advisor, and there's a component where you become a commission only. I was on buy a bag of potato, boil it, skin it, mash it, throw butter, throw some pepper in it, and then maybe go to Metro and grab a chicken and maybe try to take a little bit of chicken off that, and that's your meal for the week. You know what I mean? But now, food inflation in Canada is just ridiculous, right? And you can feel it in the restaurants as well when you go out. And unfortunately, this is the place here. We've been here before. It's a Mexican restaurant and bar. They're pretty good. They open up at 4 though, so if you're gonna plan to go there, just check out their time. They're at on Bathurst and College, but yeah, like I was saying, in terms of food inflation, that weakening Canadian dollar now, and it continues to weaken. Granted, now the with this recent inflation report, the I think the fall is not going to be as severe. Let's say the reason why this new Starbucks here. This used to be an old Scotia Bank. It's kind of a nice Starbucks. So here's Bathurst and College. You can take the bus here, and you go. I think it's south, which is that way. That's towards the exhibition. So you take the bus here, and then I'm gonna actually go. I'm gonna take a right. But in terms of that weakening loonie, it's flowing through into what we import from the U.S. And unfortunately, food is one of those things that we do, including our energy. Even though we are, we've got one of the bigger resource patches, but apparently we do import it from the U.S., the United States, and we pay good old Yankee dollars for it. So, oh, this is new. And in the back here. Yeah, this is King Edward. This is like middle school. But and it's interesting because when we were talking about in previous videos about the bond market not believing Tiff Macklin or Jay Powell in terms of interest rates and inflation, and how they wanted higher rates to compensate for that future inflation. It's quite interesting because everyone's especially in finance, right? Because let's be frank, they want to sell, right? Mutual fund companies, economists, whatever, they want to sell. So, they're going to talk down real estate agents, etc. They're going to talk down the inflation report, saying the trend is actually lower, but really, can you, as a person who's on the street, I can tell you inflation is higher, right? Look at gold prices. Prior to the Trump coming back, and the dollar. The reason why I pulled back gold is because the dollar was strong, not because inflation expectations were down. Especially in Canada, if anything, like I mentioned, you're going to have a bigger problem with a U.S. loonie that's actually weakening, right? So I think it's December 11th. There's the next meeting for the Bank of Canada, and they're actually talking about now. It was prior to, because housing, or not housing, but the economy in Canada is very weak, right? So they're talking about previously a 50 basis point cut. Now they're talking about maybe cutting it back to 25, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does do 25. He's gonna. I have a feeling he might go to the whole. No forward guidance expectations. We'll just basically base it on the data. Here you go, King Eddie. So, that's the case. That's gonna surprise the market because, there are expectations in terms of, people are talking about another 200 basis point cuts from where we are right now from the Bank of Canada. Still may get some cuts because, frankly, the economy is still very weak. Granted, I've been hearing that obviously sales activity has increased in Toronto, not necessarily prices, Okay, because it could also just mean that people are starting to actually just give up in terms of what their asking prices were. Because I've seen some listings that we just generally look at it sometimes, and houses are selling actually for below asking. So essentially, the seller kind of caved in to the offers. Granted, the prices are still pretty insane here, and also when you think about it, if like banks obviously are giving out these mortgages, and I talked about previously how they get their financing from the bond market, and now the bond yields are actually still going up, or they're still holding up. They're not gonna crash where you get cheap financing again, right? So people's salaries here are not going up. In fact, we're having a lot of job losses and things like that. I know a lot of people, unfortunately, are having a hard time finding a job. There's a lot of controversy. Even younger Canadians are not able to find, basic jobs that, kind of entry-level jobs, right? To kind of give them the skill sets to kind of start, from that sense, right? I know there's, obviously, there's, I know in every generation they always say something about the previous one. They'll say, they're not hardworking or whatever. But legitimately, right now, I will say that, the young people today are having a hard time finding entry-level jobs. And if you are one of those, you know what, I feel for you. Just keep going. You know what? These are cycles, and you'll get through it, right? That perseverance is, it's a key thing you learn in life as well, right? Because if it's, if a McDonald's or a Wendy's or a Tim's doesn't hire you now, there'll be a day when, a Bank of Montreal, a CIBC, Facebook, or Google won't as well, but you keep trying, right? So I think that's one of the key things here. But anyways, getting back to my original point was, I kind of lost it. I'm sorry. But in terms of interest rates, they're definitely now, heading upwards. Oh, even it's interesting in terms of like the banks here in Canada. So sometimes they'll give you these like offers for it's for like the hot money that runs around. So you'll get like a high rate, for a certain amount of months, right? So interestingly enough, I've actually gotten some of those emails recently. So the banks, they I have a feeling they don't anticipate, a rate drop, right? So, oh, by the way, we're walking up Bathurst right now, and we are heading towards Wellesley. So there's a lot of residential here, a lot of old residential homes. So that's another thing. So, I have seen a lot of, videos where, mortgage agents, realtors, etc. We're telling everybody to go variable, and then just flip into fixed when, when they start cutting rates, and that's the problem with giving advice, folks, on those types of mediums, including this one. Obviously, do your own work, right? But you can be very wrong, right? Even slightly wrong, right? But that inflation rate going up to 2% is kind of its indication, And if we get an upward trend now, if next month, and if you look at things like oil prices, there are commodity prices that you can look at, indexes. You can see that it's not just in Canada, but you can see where, you can see where prices for everybody are going up still, right? Commodity prices are moving up again. And then you got to remember, this is in the face of rate cuts, right? So rate cuts, and a lot of that has to probably do with the that in Canada, at least, I know they've got that mortgage cliff that everyone's worried about. Sorry. Everybody's worried about that mortgage cliff in 2025 and 2026, where a lot of people renew. And the problem now is that your renewal rates on your fixed side might not be as good as you think, right? And there's still going to be, a lot of people took out mortgages 5-year, in Canada, our standard is 5-year fixed rate, let's say. That was a pretty common thing. If you look at your mortgage renews, and let's say you're getting a 1.5 or 2%, and then now you're renewing 4, let's say 4.5. I don't know. Well, I mean, who knows, right? When people renew in 25, what the rates are going to be? Because if you get another bad inflation report, we're in for some big problems here. So, but yeah, that too, that Canadian inflation report definitely did not help. Did not help our economy. And what I'll also, probably in a future video, maybe I'll talk about stagflation. I know. Oh, and what's interesting too? I was gonna say, I was watching BNN Bloomberg, and there was an analyst on there, an economist, and they made a comment about the inflation report. And what was interesting to me was, this person made very general comments about how, rent prices are coming down in Toronto. I would say, other parts of Canada, they're not necessarily crashing, right? And probably Vancouver as well, right? It's going down. This person was making general comments about the inflationary environment, and I'll be honest, they obviously don't live here, So, anyways, 2%, folks. That's what they say. It's probably a lot higher. But anyways, we're walking up here, up Bathurst still. I'm going to be hitting Harvard Street. Oh, and also the weather is getting colder now. So it's kind of gray today. I think this is where, for a lot of, unfortunately for a lot of immigrants who come from hot countries, they're going to realize that at times the weather sucks really bad here. Especially for them, because they're not used to it. So I feel bad for them. I'm probably more accustomed to it, like I mentioned in previous videos, previous walks. But it still sucks, obviously, when it starts to really drop, and you can't go and walk and do things as well. So, or you have to maybe, right? So anyways, this is Harvard Street, folks. I'm gonna keep this video bite-sized. I hope you enjoyed it, the little walk. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, even about the economics, maybe I can answer some of that. Again, general stuff. Do your own work, right? Well, that's the old Honest Ed. They're building condos there. If you are someone who's planning to visit, you are a tourist, planning to move here, or you just enjoy watching, I thank you for watching. My name is Winston. Thanks for taking the walk with me, and I'll see you in the next walk. Bye-bye.